So the Starfield gameplay reveal is here now. Super excited to get a gameplay reveal on this game because it's been on my radar for a hot minute. Now, did have a couple of concerns after watching the gameplay reveal. I watched it live, so it's not going to be a reaction, and kind of made no sense. 15 minutes of total gameplay reveal that they did with some talking in between. Wouldn't be quite nice to react to 15 minutes of footage. I'd rather just watch it live and then afterwards give you guys my 2 cents, which I'm about to do. I'm excited though because of course Fallout and then the Elder Scrolls are 2 very great franchises, Fallout being my number 1, and I'm a big fan of the Mass Effect franchise, and have Bethesda go to space I think is going to be a very, very cool thing. So let's dive into it. So the first thing we see is the ship descending to a planet, and I think it looks freaking great. It has more of that realistic feel to it versus the comical stuff that we've been used to. So the player character gets off the spaceship, and the first thing you kind of see is the on-screen HUD, which is nice and minimal, and it does hint to both O2 and CO2 levels that could be managed on the lower left-hand corner, and it also shows environmental information like the gravity on a planet and stuff like that. Lower right, standard health, weapon type, ammo, and frags. You really don't need much more than that. Very familiar, and I love that it is not taking up a ton of space on the screen. The world that we're walking into right now looks kind of barren, and we do get a hint at the surveying with a completion graph. You probably can survey an entire planet and then get to a 100%. So we do get to see both first and third person views, which make me personally pretty happy because I often switch between first and third person depending on what I'm doing in Fallout. So just walking around, I'm in third person, and then when I'm in combat I go into first person to get just a little bit more up close and personal with the action. Now hostiles show up in red on the HD radar, which you kind of quickly see here. What was also a cool tidbit is the fact that the player aimed at a dangerous looking animal, but the animal did not attack, probably because the player did not show hostilities or acted on them. So I wonder if that's going to be kind of a theme in the game where caution gets you out of a fight instead of just shooting everything inside and then, you know, end up dying and have to start all over again. So resource gathering is going to be a thing. It doesn't look like it's going to take a long time either, which is good because no one wants to wail on a rock for what seems hours to get what they need. So the first sign of enemy contact in this gameplay is the form of a pirate ship, and then the weapon selection wheel comes up, which suggests you can bring 4 weapon types to the party. Looks like a pistol, a submachine gun, a shotgun, and what I presume to be a heavy weapon slot down below. It definitely does look like gravity is going to play a role in combat, so you gotta jump down and the player character here takes a little bit of damage, which would have killed someone if you'd done something like that on Earth. So I'm going to make the calculated assumption that gravity will dictate your combat style on the different planets that you might be able to go to. So the combat actually looks smooth, and the gunplay looks a whole lot better than in the Fallout games, because in Fallout it was always kind of like rusty, especially with VATS and stuff like that. Here it's a complete different ball game. Huge smile on my face also when I saw the log picking. It's very familiar, of course, but with a brand new twist, because it is of course more technology based. So the first section of the video really does set the realistic tone. Love the fact that there are both ballistic and energy weapons available. Definitely more realistic and less comical. Well, maybe just a little less comical because you have the whole jetpack thing going, and I do love that they're part of the game because it changes the way you play as well, and you can actually get over a crevice as opposed to having to walk all the way down and back up. That will be a huge time waster. Here you just fly over and you kick some ass. So then the gameplay fast forwards and we get to meet Constellation, the last group of explorers who you can join apparently. So the landscape changes to a capital city of New Atlantis, which initially I think looks pretty awesome, but when looking a little closer, I saw that the trees didn't move with the wind, and neither did some flags in the background. So I'm thinking that this is because the game's just not finished yet. They have to animate that stuff. But it is still something that I noticed. So the second I had a moment of, oh boy, was the facial animations. They suffer from the same issues that the previous Fallout and Elder Scrolls games suffered with. So I personally think they need some polishing there, because it just still looks a little wooden to me. So going further in, they reveal the artifacts, which seem to be the thing that binds the universe together, at least this universe. It's the one thing that everyone seems to want to obtain for their own game. So remember me talking about the facial animation thing? This character over here, way better facial animation. So again, it might just be the early stage of the game where something just needs some extra polishing to become perfect. And then we get shown a bunch of worlds and locales, so giving a hint at kind of the vastness of this game. It's not going to be small, I don't think. And then of course, factions. The choices seem to go from mild to wild, good and evil, and somewhere in between.
Systems is full of groups with other priorities.
That's the Crimson Fleet!
Everybody get ready!
The fleet doesn't follow the rules. Agree to work for UCC Step. Together, we take down these cutthroat pirates.
We're not just here to shoot the bad guys. We're peacekeepers. We protect the people of the Free Star Collective.
When you sign up with the Crimson Fleet, no one quits. The only way out is death.
And now the thing I'm going to be spending way too much time in, and I probably you as well, is the character creation. I freaking love it. So I laughed so hard when they showed you can change your body style as well as just the regular suspect. So finally, my own beer belly can be in play if I wanted to. I probably don't, because, you know, you want to look a little bit more buff if you're a space explorer, but still cool that you have the option if you want to. And then you can select the backgrounds, which have their own starting skills. Now they just show a couple of them, and out of those the combat medic is right down my alley for one reason only: increased carrying capacity. If you know, you know. If you don't, loot all the things without getting over encumbered and not being able to run. They're probably going to put that in here as well, and I hate that stuff. So every single time I punch that stat so I can just keep pack muling myself, so I don't end up having to deal with tossing stuff off and having to come back for it. And whatever you choose, it also looks like it dictates interactions you have with NPCs.
Here you spend some time as a diplomat. Having a way with words might prove useful.
And then there's optional traits to further customize your character, which is also a welcome addition. You can kind of put a little bit more of yourself in the character you're playing. And for me, that is a very big deal, because I always play as myself in these RPGs, because it's kind of like an escape from the real world, and you just transport yourself to a new world. And I think it's cool to be able to do that sort of thing. So it couldn't be a Bethesda RPG without skills that can you level up either. So especially excited about the fact you can rank those skills further by using them, as opposed to just assigning more points to an unlocked skill. So, and that's more realistic too, in my opinion, as there are skills you require in real life that you lose over time because you're not using them. Of course, there's going to be crafting. I'm going to admit, personally, I don't care too much about that mechanic other than just upgrading some weapons. So for me personally, it is going to be largely unused, but for other people, probably not as much, because they're heavily into that kind of mechanic. So another thing I'm going to be taking with a grain of salt is outposts. I really love the fact you can build them all over, and you can crew them with the people you find along your travels, but if they can be attacked and you need to defend them, it just brings me back to frickin' Fallout 4. I'd rather they don't interrupt what I'm doing at a given moment to deal with that attack. The fact that there is a watchtower in the structures tab has me a little worried. And now the big ticket item for me, customizable spaceship. Freaking customizable. Make it your own, unique. Crew them with people you choose. Build it as a transport ship or a brawler. It looks really like the sky's the limit on this. So now the next thing, full manual flight. No and yes. It looks like it is a complete express elevator to space, but once you are in space, the fight's on. You can actually fly whatever you build, which I think is freaking awesome. And then you can choose to fly it in both first person and third person, which I think is really, really cool. And it looks like there is a definite progression system there. They really show the smaller ships, but then there's also some absolutely massive transport ships. There's also a hint at docking with other ships and able to board them too. So, what, you can be a space pirate? Now we get to the size of this game. You know, I already got hints that it's going to be pretty big, but I never thought it was going to be this big. So planets seem to have these standard destinations like the main travel hubs, but you can travel and land on every part of that planet. It also looks like there's going to be an option to scan a planet. So maybe it's going to be like Mass Effect where you can just scan a planet and there's one part when there's a ton of freaking natural resources. You land over there, you extract them, and you can build your base easier and faster. And the cool thing is that was just a freaking single system too. So there's like over 100 of those systems, and then those systems have a total of like 1,000, over 1,000 of planets to explore. So this game has massive endgame potential. You go through the storyline and you're probably just scratching the surface of all those planets. So you finish up, you level everything up, and then you go to the far reaches of space. Because it looks like you're gonna have a diminished amount of fuel available to you in these smaller ships, so you can't go that far out. But then later on, you get these bigger ships, you can go further out. And if you're at the end game, you probably, well, at least I hope so, you got one of those bigger ships that can go anywhere in the galaxy. This is exciting. And then finally, the release date. The note says 2023. So not beginning, not mid, not end, just 2023. They originally wanted 11/11/22 because of the date, because 11 plus 11 is 22. It's really that. So for me, I suppose the only date that really works is 2/3/23, because it's like 2 and 3, you put those together, it's 23. Makes sense. And also, I just want to get a hold of the game already. So what do you think? Personally, I am super excited for this. I want it to come out already. I wanted to play it 11/11/22. I am 100%, whatever the release date's going to be, taking a freaking week off because I want to play this game uninterrupted. Don't have to deal with work, nothing else. Just sit down, spend way too much time on the character creation, and then just go ham, go through the storyline. Probably not even going to touch the surface of the storyline because it usually gets pretty long-winded with Bethesda games. Hopefully it's going to keep me engaged, because that's one of the things that has happened in the past where Bethesda games haven't kept me engaged and then I just dropped them. But the journey was still very enjoyable. If I spent 20 hours in game, 30 hours, 40 hours, don't finish it, I don't hold a grudge, because during those 30, 40 hours, I had a ton of fun. So, what is your opinion? Let me know, comment section below. As always, hashtag game for the sake of gaming. Hope you enjoyed the content. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys on the flip side.